Okay, Bruchim Abam, welcome everyone. Gemara Chasima Toiva, Good Ben Shtiar. We have a spectacular subject today, really very exciting and interesting. Some public service announcements. But Ezras Hashem, the Sefer on Chinuch Habanim is now available in the land of Israel. You could contact Sal Orbach to get your copy. It's being distributed in the stores in Eretz Yisrael. It should arrive in America today. So that's some exciting news. Also, Bezos Hashem, for Shabbos Parshas Vayera, the Shabbos project of the Chief Rabbi of South Africa, we're having a mission to South Africa. We're starting off in the city of Cape Town, Shabbos in Johannesburg, and then a Yarchei Kala in Kruger National Park. Once in a lifetime opportunity. If you want to join us, you could see our site, rabbidg.com, for more information. We have a very interesting topic today. I know everyone's getting nervous because, we've been preparing for Elul even before Elul started. And Elul is a month of Musar, and it's very intense. And we're trying to improve ourselves, having thoughts of Yiras Shamayim, and then Rosh Hashanah is the Yom Hadin, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, if I've been hearing Musar the whole month of Elul, and before Rosh Hashanah, what's Glatstein going to talk about before Yom Kippur? It's going to be too much. Now, don't worry. So we're going to have a little bit of a change of pace today, because today we're going to talk about a halachic and lomdasha topic relevant to Yom Kippur. Really a fascinating topic, and it's very contemporary. They have these IV services where you could have somebody come to your home and put you on IV. You'll have nutrients, you'll have hydration, you'll have caffeine, you'll have everything you need. And much better stuff, they have. And they even have IV parties that you could have a birthday party and invite all your friends. And everyone could now, okay? Let's say somebody is ill. Should they go on IV to be able to fast on Yom Kippur? Or let's say someone is not ill and they say, look, I don't really like Yom Kippur. It's very hard to be in shul all day. I don't like being hungry. I don't like not drinking coffee. I don't like all the appeals, the Kol Nidre appeal and the Yizkar appeal and the Ne'ilah appeal. And then I have to listen to the rabbi speak by Kol Nidre and then by Yizkar and then by Ne'ilah. I mean, just let me know when it's over. So at least if I could be on IV for nutrients, hydration, caffeine, meat, I could have basar b'chalav at the same time even, So the question is, should a person put themselves on IV to be able to fast? Is a person allowed to put themselves on IV if they're not ill? These are all very interesting questions, and in the course of discussing these issues, maybe we'll speak about using suppositories and other forms of nutritional intake to facilitate fasting on Yom Kippur. So now, let's begin with the Mishnah in Masechta Yuma on Daf Pei Beis. Let me try to bring up the Machon here. Let's see if we could do that. Here, you should be able to see it on your screen, the Machon. If anybody wants to get Machon for the Shiurim, you could sign up on our site, rabbidg.com, and subscribe. You'll get to your inbox the Machon and the schedule of the Shiurim. Okay, so the Mishnah tells us in Masechta Yuma that, of course, we know that if somebody is not able to fast on Yom Kippur because of a life-threatening situation, then they do not fast, and they're not allowed to fast. As important as fasting on Yom Kippur is, we know, it says, Ki kol hanefesh asher lo yiseuneh v'nechrasa. The punishment for not fasting on Yom Kippur is kares. Nevertheless, as important as fasting on Yom Kippur is, it's even more important to preserve one's life. In fact, they once asked Rabbi Aryeh Leib HaKoyen, the author of the K'tzos HaChoshen, why was he zoiche to write 3 svarim that were neskabel in all the Olam HaYeshivos, K'tzos HaChoshen, Avnei Miluim, Shev Shmaitza? He said because in the merit of 3 times he had to break his fast on Yom Kippur and eat, and he had so much tsar that in the merit of that, he was zoiche to write these 3 svarim. So as important as fasting is, it's more important to preserve Jewish life. And the Mishnah tells us about the process if you have a pregnant woman who is in the need to eat on Yom Kippur. The Mishnah tells us that we whisper in her ear, today's Yom Kippur, and if she's not able to fast, then we try to feed her hakal tchila. We give her the more lenient prohibition first, the gravy, the juice, and then the gravy, and we try to be miyashev daita. Otherwise, we give her food outright because ein lecha davar she'omed b'fnei pikuach nefesh. And let's say the chayla says, I don't need to eat. I'm not hungry. And the doctor says, no, you do need to eat. And the chayla says, no, I don't need to eat. What do I need to eat for? We listen to the doctor, even against the will and the position of the chayla himself. Even if many doctors say you don't need to eat, and one doctor says no, you do need to eat, the person has to eat. Moreover, if all the doctors in the world say no, you don't need to eat, and the chayla says no, I'm feeling very weak, I don't feel right, I feel I need to eat, then they need to eat. Ein lecha davar ha'omed b'fnei pikuach nefashos. Now, the starting point of this year is the fact that when it comes to Yom Kippur, the Torah does not say you're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur. Did you know that? You're going to be very happy with this. It doesn't say anywhere you're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur. What does it say? It says, Ki chal hanefesh asher lo yisi'uneh be'etzem hayom hazeh v'nichrus miyameh. Any soul that does not afflict itself on this day will be cut off. So it's interesting. It doesn't say Ki chal hanefesh asher oichel be'etzem hayom hazeh. It says asher lo yisi'uneh. Comes the Shagas Aryeh in Siman Ayin Vav. And the Shagas Aryeh says, why does the Torah say that any soul that doesn't afflict itself? It should say any soul that doesn't eat. That's because if the Torah would say you're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, then if you ate shaloi kederach achila, then you would be pater. If the Torah would say don't eat, and the person consumed food in an unusual manner, they had a funnel and someone stuffed the food down the funnel and they never swallowed it, then you would be pater. But the Torah doesn't say don't eat. It says anyone who does not afflict yourself. You have to afflict yourself. So therefore, says the Shagas Aryeh, eating shaloi kederach achila, one would be still chayiv kares. Because when it comes to other lavin, where the Torah says don't eat, then you're only liable if you eat it in a usual manner. But when it comes to not eating on Yom Kippur, it doesn't say don't eat. It says don't afflict yourself. And therefore, the Shagas Aryeh writes, Agavorchin lamadnu da'ha'oichel v'shoysa b'yom ha'kippurim shaloi kederach achila u'shtiya chayiv mishum d'lo ksiv gabe achila ela asher lo yisi'uneh. And this person did not afflict himself. Yes, he didn't eat, but he also did not afflict himself. So therefore the Shagas Aryeh says if somebody eats on Yom Kippur shaloi kederach achila, they would be chayiv. What a whopper of a chiddush. So I remember 12 years ago, I was discussing the Shagas Aryeh with Rav Obam Shlita, and Rav Obam told me that not everybody agrees with the Shagas Aryeh. I said, really? Who disagrees with the Shagas Aryeh? Rav Obam said, the Shalom Eshev disagrees. So I called up Rav Obam again because I was trying to find it. I said, where's the Shalom Eshev? By the way, with the Shalom Eshev, even if you know what tshuva it's in, it's still not so easy to find. So he told me where it was. Baruch Hashem, I found it. And the Shalom Eshev says an amazing argument, a contrary argument to the Shagas Aryeh. He says something amazing. He says like this: do you know when we could argue and say that if the Torah says don't eat, it means only kederach achila, and it doesn't mean in an unusual manner? That's if there's no reason for the Torah not to write don't eat. Meaning, we're looking at what the Torah says by Yom Kippur, and we're wondering, hey, why did the Torah say any soul that doesn't afflict itself? Just say straight out, don't eat. What's wrong with the expression, don't eat? Says the Shagas Aryeh, the fact that Torah said, don't afflict yourself, it's including even eating in an unusual manner. Says the Shalom Eshev, you can only make that argument if the Torah should have said, don't eat. But if by Yom Kippur the Torah could not have said, don't eat, then you can't say, you know why the Torah says, lo yisa'uneh, to include shalai kedar chachila? No, by Yom Kippur, it couldn't have said don't eat. The diuk that we're including even eating in an unusual manner is because we're bothered. Why didn't the Torah say simply don't eat? But we don't have such a question on Yom Kippur. You know why? Because there's a reason the Torah didn't just say don't eat on Yom Kippur. Because when the Torah says don't eat something, what is the shear that the Torah is saying not to eat? You know, what is the definition of eating or not eating in the Chumash? When the Torah says eat, eating is a kazayas. When the Torah says don't eat means don't eat a kazayas. But friends, by Yom Kippur, is the prohibition don't eat a kazayas? No, what's the halacha if somebody eats a kazayas on Yom Kippur? They're not chayiv kares. You know why? Because the Torah didn't say don't eat. The Torah says any soul that didn't afflict itself. And we have a tradition that one is still afflicted unless they ate kikoiseves hagasa, a big fat date. The shear of achila on Yom Kippur is not kazayas, it's kikoiseves, a big date. Now, in our generation, people don't know what dates are. They don't know what fruits are. They know what jelly beans are, but they don't know what fruits are. One of the reasons people don't know what dates are, because most dates you're not allowed to eat because they're full of worms. And most people, either they don't even know, they don't know how to check for worms. So it's very tough to eat dates these days. There are too many worms in them. Most people don't know how to check them. But there's a fruit called a date. And even though ordinarily, when it comes to eating pig, you're not allowed to eat an olive's worth. But when it comes to eating on Yom Kippur, you're allowed to eat an olive's worth, according to the baseline share of the Torah. What you're not allowed to eat is a large date. And the reason is because the Chachamim have a tradition that when the Torah says don't afflict yourself, a person's mind is still not at ease. They're still irritable. They're still grouchy if all they eat is a kazayas. They need kikoiseves hagasa to be full. So says the Shalom Eshev, he disagrees with the Shagas Aryeh. Shagas Aryeh says from the fact that Torah says V'chol hanefesh asher lo yisa'uneh, it's not only saying you're not allowed to eat on Yom Kippur, it's in a usual way. It's even including don't eat on Yom Kippur in an unusual way. But the Shalom Eshev says no. The prohibition of eating on Yom Kippur is like all other prohibitions of food, that it's only prohibited to eat in a usual way. It is not prohibited to eat in an unusual way. So you may say right now, is being fed through intravenous means, is that considered eating on Yom Kippur? Well, maybe the Shagas Aryeh would say, you're not allowed to do it. But the Shalom Eshev would say, you are allowed to. And by the way, most Achronim disagree with the Shagas Aryeh. They agree with the Shalom Eshev that it's only asur to eat kederach achila. So, for example, the Binyan Sion in Siman Lamed Hey, let's take a look at that. Rav Yaakov Ettlinger, shouts to Chuvas Binyan Sion, he says, Ro'isi lachgar misha achav yom kippurim kikoiseves basar chai. Let's say somebody, they auction off Hagba, and you have this little scrawny guy. He could barely lift up a feather usually. And they give him Hagba on this massive Sefer Torah. And he lifts it up, he opens up 9 columns, you can see the whole Sefer Devarim. You say, pal, it's Yom Kippur, how do you have so much strength? How do you have so much strength? I just, right before Hagbah, I ate a raw piece of steak. I downed the whole thing, you know, the cowboy steak. You eat a cowboy steak, you gain 20 pounds right away. Are you allowed to eat raw meat on Yom Tif? Now, eating raw meat would be considered shaloi kederach achila, because the Binyan Tzion says you can't say eating raw meat is not eating food. Raw meat is food. Something that could be cooked is food. It's just not the derech to eat it that way. And the Mishnah says somebody who ate raw meat on Yom Kippur is pater. So says the Binyan Tzion, that's a proof to the opinion of the contrary to the Shagas Aryeh, that if one eats shaloi kederach achila on Yom Kippur, they're pater. So again, here we see the majority of poskim disagree with the Shagas Aryeh, and they say eating shaloi kederach achila is pater. Okay. Now here's a similar shaila. They asked Reb Chaim Ozer Grzinski, Poiskei Hadar, the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th, he says he wants to know whether it's permitted on Yom Kippur lahachnis l'choila oichel umashka l'toich haguf al yedei klister derech hachal choilas. They want to feed the choila on Yom Kippur through a klister, a tube. Well, I'm just going to tell you what this word means, so for the sake of clarity, and we're learning, derech hachal choilas means through the rectum. Are you allowed to feed somebody in that manner? And the questioner assumed that on Yom Kippur, eating is dependent on whether the mind will be at ease, and if somebody is fed through the rectum, they will be satiated to some extent. Maybe it would be usher to feed them this way. And the Achiezer says that even according to the Chiddush L'Chsam Sofer in Ar Chaim, that on Yom Kippur, it would not be enough if somebody just swallows, but your intestines have to have the hana. So in this case, your intestines are having the hana, but that's only if it goes down through the throat. But if it doesn't go down through the throat, that's not called eating. Even according to the Shagas Aryeh, who says you're chayiv for eating on Yom Kippur, shaloi kederach achila. Shaloi kederach achila means a funnel through your throat, not a tube through the other end, through the chalchoilas. Says Reb Chaim Ozer, even the Shagas Aryeh would agree that if you feed somebody through a tube, through the tachtoin and not through the peh, that's not called eating. That's not called eating. He says that the Torah says by Yom Kippur, Vaya'ancha, you should be afflicted. And Vaya'ancha Vayarivecha is a pasuk that it says by the man, that the man was considered torture, contrary to what they taught you in Cheder, that the man was delicious because it tasted like whatever you thought. No, sorry, nice try. No. The man was torture. The man was painful. It was terrible. Because it's true, it could taste like anything you want. Here, you see my scotch tape over here? You see this roll of scotch tape? I have a lot of scotch over there. I want you to eat this scotch tape every single meal and just think whatever you want. It will taste like whatever you want. You'll have to check yourself into an insane asylum after 2 days. Food is not just about the taste, it's about the way it looks, it's about the texture, it's about the smell. So it's true, it tasted like anything, but it was a downright torture. Imagine if I told you, eat cardboard every single meal, it will taste like whatever you want. You won't be able to handle it. So we see that affliction is through the mouth. Therefore it says, the Achiezer, Reb Chaim Ozer Grzinski, that in his opinion, even the Shagas Aryeh would agree that this is not considered achila, and one would be allowed to feed a choila through a tube, through the chalchoilas. That is not considered achila. His conclusion is, v'ikra shayla adavar pashat she'ein zeh misugei achila, like I started off. Now, another source on this is the opinion of the Chelkas Yaakov, who quotes the Marsham, Rabbi Yaakov Breish, and the Chelkas Yaakov brings from Rabbi Breish. He says, to stick food someone who's having a hard time fasting, after a few hours they have a very big headache. You know people like that, 10 minutes into Yom Kippur, they have terrible caffeine withdrawal. They're in sakanas nefashos. After 5 minutes, they come to Kol Nidre, they make an appeal, they sell the psicha, and before even Kol Nidre, they have a crushing caffeine headache, they have a crushing headache because they're starving, the fact that they ate 24 hours straight, irrespective, and now all of a sudden, it's an emergency, they have to eat, they have to drink, they need caffeine, they need hydration. It's been a very long time. It's been more than 35 seconds since they ate. So the question was, are they allowed to take a tzavchan? A tzavchan, friends, is a suppository. In this suppository, they packed, it's mamish malei birkas Hashem. You have food, hydration, caffeine, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, aspirin. You name the goodie, it's in the suppository. And the question is, are you allowed to take it on Yom Tif, or is that considered eating? And he quotes the Rabbi Yaakov quotes the Marsham, to feed somebody in that manner, even though you could sustain someone for weeks, for months that way. It's not a problem. There's no Isra Achila on Yom Kippur. The only thing is, the shaila though is, this is not food. It's refuah, to cure your headache. So now the question is, are you allowed to take medicine on Yom Kippur? Well, are you allowed to take medicine on Shabbos or Yom Tif? And the answer is, taking medicine on Shabbos is a violation of schikas samemanim, right? Midrabanan, you're not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos because you might come to grind herbs. However, if somebody somebody's life is in peril, or even if you're not a holiest basakana, but the illness is so strong that you have to lie down, you're nafal mishkav. Let's say someone has a crushing headache, and they can't function. Any illness that part of your body is not functioning the way it should, you'd be allowed to take medicine. So therefore, says Rav Breish, in the name of the Marsham, to take a suppository is not an issue. Why? He says it's not called food, it's not derech achila. Even the Shagis Aryeh would say it's not a problem. That is not called eating on Yom Kippur. Meaning even the Shagis Aryeh, who says that shaloi kederech achila is asur, putting it in that way, from the tachton, derech hachal cholas, is not considered eating. But now, friends, the question is, if it's not considered eating, then is somebody whose life is on the line, they have an illness, they're a holiest basakana, somebody who's very old, and to keep their vitals going, they need constant nutrition and hydration. Or someone who has an illness, they have a certain kind of low blood sugar, or some of their organs are compromised and they have to have regular nutrition, and if they don't, they're putting their life possibly in danger. So these people have an obligation. First of all, they're allowed to eat on Yom Kippur. They're obligated to eat on Yom Kippur, and it's a mitzvah for them to eat on Yom Kippur. But should we tell these people, hey, why would you eat on Yom Kippur? Why don't we just call a medical service? We'll have IV be put in. This way, you'll be able to fast on Yom Kippur. I understand you're allowed to eat, but wouldn't it be better to put the chayla on IV in order to, on intravenous, in order to facilitate their fasting on Yom Kippur? That's a valid question. And then let's discuss a regular question. Here you have a regular guy. The guy says, I'm not in the mood of fasting on Yom Kippur. I don't want to get a little headache. I don't feel good the next day. I'm tired. I would love to have IV, caffeine, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, and all other kalmatanim coursing through my veins on Yom Kippur. As a regular person, allowed to do that. And if you say, well, you can't prick him on Yom Kippur, all right, we'll prick him 5 minutes before Yom Kippur. So let's start by talking about the choyle. The choyle, is the choyle obligated to put himself on IV in order for them to fast? Some people haven't fasted on Yom Kippur many years. They're not able to. And the question is, should they rather put themselves on IV to facilitate this? So this question was brought to the Dovev Meisharim, the Chabina Rav, and it's quoted in Shas Tshuvas Tzitz Eliezer, Chelek Yud, Siman Chaf He, Parak Chaf Aleph. This Chelek of Tzitz Eliezer is my favorite Chelek. This Chelek that Tzitz Eliezer wrote, I believe in 1967, when we regained access to the Kaisal Maravi and all the Mekaymes HaKadoshim. And he quotes the Dovev Meisharim, B'noi Geya, look where my icon is, Im lahadif losei zrikas mazoin shechasar hanaz garoin. Is it better to put someone on IV? And he says, even though there is no prohibition of taking nutrition through IV, ladati shaloi lesagef. Do not torture someone by putting them on IV for Yom Kippur. Kihu b'chlal inoi nefesh. You're afflicting them. Nobody needs to be, there's no mitzvah to be tortured on Yom Kippur. There's a mitzvah not to eat. There's a mitzvah not to drink. There's a mitzvah not to smear yourself. There's a mitzvah not to bathe yourself. There's no mitzvah to torture yourself. And going on IV is torturous. Furthermore, v'yachal avlidei sakana. A person could be putting their life in danger by going on IV. Many people have developed infections by being put on IV. And you never know, maybe the nurse will, instead of putting him on nutrition or hydration, they'll have, I don't know what, going through his veins. And it could kill the guy. He could have the wrong medicine put in. Or you could put him to the wrong part of his body. Therefore, says the Dovev Meisharim, absolutely not. There's no requirement for a person to be mutchad, to go on to IV, to be able to fast on Yom Tif, to be able to fast on Yom Kippur. Tzitz Eliezer also says that that one is not required. First of all, it's very painful to put in the IV. It's not a pleasant thing. You know, they look for the right vein. No, that wasn't good. Let's try again, right? They make him like a pin cushion, you know? They pick the guy 50 times until they get the right spot, until his whole arm is black and blue. It's very painful, says the Tzitz Eliezer. It's very uncomfortable. And therefore, since the person is permitted to eat, they are not required to put themselves on IV just to be able to fast on Yom Kippur. What's interesting is, so far, the svaras that are given, why one would not be required to go on IV, are practical. It hurts, it's torturous, it's not convenient, you don't have to do it. But I want to share with you something from Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Okay, before we see that, see Rav Shlomo Zalman, I want to share with you the argument of Rav Sternbach. Rav Sternbach says something amazing. He says, wait a second. We know that if someone's life is on the line, it's better to try not to desecrate Shabbos than to desecrate Shabbos. Meaning, let's say somebody's life is on the line, and you could call on a telephone, and you could either dial the number with a shinoi or not with a shinoi. The opinion that holds pikuach nefashos is dechuya. Shabbos is dechuya because of pikuach nefashos. Says it's better to avoid desecrating the Shabbos. In general, yes, you're allowed to desecrate Shabbos to save someone's life, but if you could avoid desecrating Shabbos, that's certainly preferable. There are many mechanics that Hatzalah utilizes to avoid desecrating Shabbos. Let's say they have the Hatzalah car or a truck. Sometimes the engine just stays on the whole time to minimize Chilul Shabbos. So if we try to do our best to avoid violating prohibitions, then why? But when it comes to saving someone's life, why when it comes to Yom Kippur, wouldn't we say, I know you're allowed to eat, but wouldn't it be better if you go on IV? So, the Moyadim Uzmanim, Rav Sternbach and the Moyadim Uzmanim says a beautiful svara, a very glata svara. He says, the din that we will avoid violating Shabbos, even if someone's life is on the line, is only to do a shinoi in the act, as long as that it will not produce a shinoi in the result. So I could call on the phone directly, or I could dial the numbers with a shinoi. Then maybe there's an opinion you should use a shinoi. Because whether you dial it with your regular finger or you dial with your nose, the number will be called. So the acts can be done with you can deviate from the regular way you do the act, provided the result is unaffected. But we never make a shinoi in the result. For instance, yes, if somebody has IV, they will be able to fast on Yom Kippur, but they will not be hydrated and have real nutrition as well as if they eat real food. So there will be a difference in the quality of the care, whether they get IV or whether they eat real food. The din that we try to avoid prohibitions in a permitted matter is only if we're avoiding the prohibition and the act, but the result will be the same for the patient. But if the result will be different, then we do not make any shinoi at all. And when it comes to IV, yes, IV is effective, but it's not as effective and healthy as regular nutrition. And therefore we are not we do not make a shinoi if there's going to be a shinoi in the result, only when there's a shinoi in the act. That's what Rav Sternbach writes in the Moyadim Uzmanim. Furthermore, Rav Sternbach says that if somebody wanted, let's say a guy says, you know what, I don't want to fast on Yom Kippur. Enough already. I fasted my whole life. This year I'm going to take off. Of course I'm not going to eat, but I want to go on IV. Rav Sternbach says they're not allowed to. Why not? What Aveira are you doing? So he says, aside from the prohibition of eating, which you would not be violating if you go on IV, there's also a positive command to rest from nutrition on Yom Kippur. There's a positive assay of resting from imbibing nutrition. So although you are not violating, although we will consider it like that, yes, you were afflicted, and you're not violating the requirement to be afflicted, but you are violating the positive command to rest from nutrition. Okay, now friends, comes the juicy part. Because until now, we had some practical reasons or some lamdasha reasons why one would not be required to go on IV in order to fast on Yom Kippur. You have the doivev meisharim, you don't have to torture yourself to fast on Yom Kippur. You have the tzitz eliezer, it's too painful, and since he's allowed to eat, he's not mechuyev to go on IV. You have the reason of the Moyadim Uzmanim, we don't do a shinoi. If somebody's life is on the line, we only do a shinoi in the act, not in the result. Comes Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and he gives us a reason why not only is one not required to go on IV to fast on Yom Kippur, one is not allowed to go on IV in order to be able to fast on Yom Kippur. And it starts as follows. Did anyone here ever, this is found in the Mincha Shloimoi, Madura Kama, Siman Zayin Ois Aleph, and Tinyana, Siman Laman Ches Ois Beis. Friends, did anybody ever hear? We know that a woman who's in labor, so you could drive her to the hospital on Shabbos. What do you mean you're not allowed to go to Shabbos? Yeah, but you're allowed to save her life and the life of the baby, you're allowed to. Did anyone ever hear of obligation that every Erev Shabbos, if a woman's in her 9th month, you should drive her to the hospital before Shabbos, just in case she'll go into labor, so she doesn't have to desecrate Shabbos? Wouldn't that be a great idea? I mean, we could start a whole business, all right? You know, you could do it. I'll just take like a small percent. Okay, you guys do it, and I'll get a small royalty. Here's the idea: build like hotel rooms in hospitals, and all Jewish women in their 9th month will have to move in there every single Shabbos. You know why? Because maybe she'll go into labor, and this way, why should she stay home? And then you have to go in a car service, and that's great Shabbos. She should move into the hospital every Shabbos. Let's take a vote if you think this is a good idea. Yeah, every Friday. You know, she has other kids. Kids say, well, where are you going? Oh, I'm going to. Why? Because I might be in labor. You might be in labor, so you're moving out of the house. Yeah, I don't want to desecrate Shabbos. Anyone ever hear of such a thing? No such thing. Why is there no such thing? Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, if it would be a regular Tuesday, would you move into the hospital if you're in your 9th month? Of course not. Why? Because you want to sleep in your own bed. You want to live in your own house. And you will not go into the hospital until you're in the 11th hour. No, it's better to avoid hospitals at all costs. So therefore, it says Rav Shlomo Zalman, if on a normal Tuesday you wouldn't go to the hospital if you're in your 9th month, you don't have to go Erev Shabbos. Because when the Torah gives mitzvahs, it says, do the mitzvahs and live a normal life. Do not don't jump through hoops to put yourself in a situation, an unnatural situation, just to avoid violating the Yisr. You're allowed to live a normal life in your house, in your own bed. You're not required, you're not obligated to go to the Ukraine for Rosh Hashanah, and you're not obligated to move in to the hospital on Erev Shabbos, just because you might go into labor. So says Rav Shlomo Zalman, likewise, normal people eat with their mouths. Normal people drink by taking a cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvarai. And they drink. People don't usually eat by sticking needles into them, attached to tubes, and the nutrition is going to course through their veins. Therefore, if that's not a normal thing to do, you don't have to do it you don't have to do it to be able to fast on Yom Kippur. But says Rav Shlomo Zalman, am I allowed to go on IV to be able to fast on Yom Kippur? Says Rav Shlomo Zalman, you're not allowed to go on IV to fast on Yom Kippur. You know why you're not allowed to go on IV? Because someone who sees you might think you're obligated to go on IV. And you're not obligated. The Torah doesn't obligate you. This is not a natural thing. We don't even know if it's a healthy thing. We don't know if it's good for you. But I can't bring myself to fast on Yom Kippur. Pal, why can't you bring yourself to fast on Yom Kippur? Because how could you eat on Yom Kippur? Well, what's wrong with eating on Yom Kippur? Oh, because didn't Hashem say I'm not eat? No, God never said you're not eat on Yom Kippur. He said you have to eat on Yom Kippur. Yeah, but I could go on IV. No. You're not an alien. Aliens, I don't know, maybe they eat by pricking themselves with needles and sticking tubes into themselves. Human beings eat naturally. You can eat naturally because it's Yom Kippur, so you'll have to eat even though it's Yom Kippur. But not only are you not required to go on IV because that's an unnatural, unusual thing to do, you are not allowed to go on IV to eat on Yom Kippur. And then, friends, finally, we have the svara of Rav Moshe Feinstein. And this svara is this is such an amazing svara of why you're not required to go on IV. And not only that, you would not be allowed to go on IV. And the svara is as follows. Are you allowed to go to a doctor? Yeah, of course you're allowed to go to a doctor. Really? The Gemara says in Baba Kama, Daf Pei the Tanya, the Bei Rabbi Shmuel. Oimer v'rapa yirape, mikan shenitein reshus l'roipe l'rapes. From here we see a doctor is given permission to heal. And this is found in the Igros Moshe, Arachayim Chelak Gimel Siman Tzadi, Arachayim Chelak Dalet Siman Kuf Aleph Ois Gimel. You're allowed to go to a doctor. Mikan shenitein reshus l'roipe l'rapes. From here we see a doctor is allowed to heal. So from here we learn that a doctor needs permission to heal. Otherwise, as we're going to learn, maybe the doctor's not allowed to heal. After all, God sent this person an illness. Maybe he doesn't want, obviously God wants a person to be ill. So the doctor, who's the doctor fighting? He's fighting the illness or he's fighting God? You might think he's fighting God. No, you're allowed to go to a doctor. You could go to the doctor, he'll give you antibiotic. Says Rav Moshe, this gentleman who's going to the doctor to attach him to IV, is he going to the doctor to heal him? No. This doctor is not healing him by putting in the IV. The way this chayla needs to be healed is through other means. Maybe he has medication, maybe he needs to do physical therapy, maybe he needs to sleep, maybe he needs to walk, whatever it is, he has other means of refuah. So why is he going to this doctor? Oh, he's going to the doctor so the doctor could enable him to fast on Yom Kippur. Since when did God give doctors the right to help people fast on Yom Kippur? God gave doctors the right to heal people, not to do mitzvahs. That's not the job of the doctor. You want to do mitzvahs, go to a rabbi. Go to your Rebbe. Go to Uman if you want to do mitzvahs. But don't go to a doctor. Doctors are given a specific job. Their job is to heal you. But now you want to go to the doctor that he should give you IV, not to heal you, but to enable you to fast on Yom Kippur. That's not the job description of a doctor. Doctor was given reshus l'rapos. He's not given reshus to assist you in doing mitzvahs. The doctor is not a religious enabler or facilitator. The doctor heals you from illness. He's not healing you here. He's helping you do mitzvahs. That's like going to a fish store and asking, do you have thumbtacks? That's like going to a used car store and you want to buy a herring. So why would you go to a doctor? The doctors should look at you. Why are you coming to me? Do you need to get better? No, I need to fast on Yom Kippur. Okay, go to a Rebbe if you want to fast on Yom Kippur. What are you coming to a doctor for? You got the wrong person. Doctors don't have reshus to enable people to do mitzvahs. They have no permission. Therefore, you are not required to go to the doctor. Are you allowed to go to the doctor to get IV to fast on Yom Kippur? Says Rav Moshe, it's asur. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to? What avera are you doing? You ready for this? Tosfos and Baba Kama on the Gemara says, "V'rapa yirape mikan sheniten reshus l'roife l'rapos." From here we see permission is given to a doctor to heal you. So Tosfos asks, so just say v'rapa. Why do you need to say v'rapa yirape? Says Tosfos, if it would just say yirape, I would think you could only go to a doctor if Ruvain hits Shimon and wounds Shimon. So Ruvain caused Shimon to be wounded. So now the doctor could heal Shimon because the doctor is not fighting God. He's fighting the wounds of Ruvain. Ruvain hit Shimon. But what if God sent the guy the illness? What if God punished the person? What if the Ribbon Shalom sent a person a chayli? I would think the doctor is not allowed to heal the person because he's contravening the decree of God. God was geyser, the person should have an illness. What right does the doctor have to contravene the will of God? The answer is v'rapa yirape. Not only could you heal somebody who is wounded bidei Adam, you could even heal somebody who's wounded bidei Shamayim, who's a chayla. Says Rav Moshe, that means the svara chitzayna. The initial preposition, the initial presumption, is that it is asur to go to a doctor because what a doctor is doing is contravening the will of God. However, the Torah says you could go to a doctor. He could go to a doctor to heal you if somebody hurts you. You could go to a doctor to heal you if you have an illness min hashamayim. But now the person wants to go to a doctor so that he could fast on Yom Kippur, but the heavens have decreed you should not fast on Yom Kippur. Now you want to go to a doctor to fast? the doctor is contravening the will of God. It is usur to go to the doctor to get IV to be able to fast on Yom Kippur. You know, then it would come out, let's say somebody normally does not take medication, and they could take a medication to be able to fast on Yom Kippur. Should they go to a doctor to get a prescription to fast on Yom Kippur? It sounds like Rabbi Moshe would say no. Are they allowed to go to a doctor to get a prescription to be able to take a medicine just to fast on Yom Kippur? Not to heal them, just to fast on Yom Kippur? It sounds like Rabbi Moshe would say no. What would Rabbi Shlomo Zalman say? He would say no. Why? Do you take a medication on a regular Tuesday? No. Why would you take medicine on Erev Yom Kippur? You don't have to jump through hoops to fast on Yom Kippur. You don't have to do unnatural things to fast on Yom Kippur. What would Rabbi Meir say? Should you take a medicine? By the way, Rabbi Moshe adds, taking IV may be not healthy. So he says, really? But nobody ever said there's a problem with IV. Says Rabbi Moshe, just because they don't know of any specific problem, that just means they don't know yet of any harm side effect of going on the IV. Doesn't mean there isn't any. We basically, friends, have offered a number of reasons why one would not have to go on IV. The Doviv Meisharim says it's torturous. According to that reason, if it's just a regular medication that doesn't have any side effect, maybe you should do it. According to Rav Shlomo Zalman, what if somebody could take a regular a medicine to be able to fast? It sounds, he may say you don't have to. Not only that, he may say you're not allowed to, because then other people are going to think you're required to. What would Rabbi Moshe say? Rabbi Moshe says you don't go to doctors to do mitzvahs. You want to do mitzvahs? Go to your Rebbe. Rebbes could help you do mitzvahs. Your Rav could help you do mitzvahs. Doctors are not there to help you do mitzvahs. Am I allowed to go to a doctor to help me do mitzvah? No. You're not allowed to. A lot of these svaras that we learned have very profound hashkafic implications. And we have a machlokes, the Shagas Aryeh and the Shalom Eshev, whether eating shaloi k'derech achila is asur. And most poskim say that intravenous or suppository is not considered shaloi k'derech achila. However, let's say there are questions about someone taking medication on Yom Tif, which is basically on Yom Kippur, without any liquid or without any water. That would be considered, definitely shaloi k'derech achila, although according to the Shagas Aryeh, shaloi k'derech achila is not necessarily permitted. Poskim say if you have to take a medicine and you're not able to take it without water, so use very bitter tea scents. So that's considered shaloi k'derech achila. But again, the Shagas Aryeh does not support the notion of that shaloi k'derech achila is mutter. But anyway, in the course of this discussion, we've encountered many, many very profound ideas about pikuach nefashos, derech achila, the role of doctors, the role of medicine in being able to perform mitzvahs and on fasting on Yom Kippur. And on that note, I wish everyone a Gemar Chasima Tova, a good Keben Shiar. I ask you all for Mechila, and I look forward to seeing you Bez Hashem Monday. Hopefully we'll have a shir on Inyane Sukkah. Have a great day, everyone. Bracha v'hatzlacha. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take.